my heart leap at the thought that there was still a golden world that I am a part of and will always be.
Now, I've spoken to the South Bay Team in Training Run Team probably about 10 times since I was diagnosed, and to help me create unique talks, I've developed a speech writing crutch. I select a different theme word for each speech. And an event occurred during the fall season just before I originally gave this speech, which made the selection of the theme word for the talk quite easy. So some of you may know that I split my occasional training between the South Bay Team in Training Iron Team and a few TNT run teams. And by a strange coincidence, a bike ride with the Iron Team last season ended exactly the same time and location as the conclusion of a 14-mile training run for the fall South Bay Run Team. So I took off my biking gear, put on my running gear, and ran against the flow and cheered on the tired team participants as they finished their very long run. I yelled out, of course, "Go team!" "You're looking strong. Great job. Way to go." Trail that day, there were several new participants where I relied upon their Team in Training shirts or hat to pick them out from the many strangers. So I saw a runner in the distance with the Team in Training Passion shirt. I don't know if anyone has that on today. Passion shirt on. And as she approached, I yelled out, "Woo-hoo! Looking good!" And just at that moment, though, I noticed that her shirt didn't read Passion, it read Pioneer, as in Pioneer High School. And of course, I intended my cheer to mean that she was looking strong and fast, as I'm sure any of you would have understood if I had addressed you, but my brain quickly realized that woohoo, looking good, from a strange man to a teenager might come across differently. So some of you might have figured out that the theme word for my talk today is embarrassment. Okay, so I obviously made a huge fool of myself that weekend, and for those of you that know me, you might say, "So what's new about that?" But another question might be, you've gone on for several minutes, and all we've learned is that the theme word for today's talk is embarrassment. And what has that got to do with cancer anyway? Well, let's explore the theme of embarrassment from a few angles relating to cancer. First, let me bring up the topic of needles and injections. I don't like them. And I guess, who does? But I'm really crazy afraid of them. An irrational fear. In fact, it's got a name, trypanophobia. Now, you can imagine that blood cancer diagnosis, testing, and treatments require countless injections. The doctors and nurses all offered exactly the same words of carefully considered medical advice to my panic, fear, and dread to every injection. You'll get over it. Now, I'm sure their actual thoughts were, "Don't be such a baby." And after 4.5 years of being injected, my fear, my trypanophobia, remains intact. Their words of consolation were both wrong and useless. Fortunately, I had a friend, not a medical professional, who knew of a special prescription numbing cream that can be applied beforehand to an injection site. It goes by the acronym EMLA, and I've used this cream, many times successfully over the last few years. But the first time I used it, I read the instructions which detailed the dosage amount. The dosage table had headings that read 1 to 3, 3 to 12, 12 to 24. But I was 47 at that time. What was the dosage for my age group? Then I realized it wasn't intended for adults. Fine, I was over 24. But wait, it was 24 months. I was taking a medication as a 47-year-old that isn't even used for children beyond 2 years old. Oh my God, I am such a baby. Embarrassment. Okay, now I'd also like to discuss today's theme word as it applies to the relationship between people with cancer and their friends. When one is first diagnosed with cancer, Especially a cancer without a cure, such as mine, it is often difficult for the patient to know how to spread the news, or whether it should be spread at all. Not necessarily out of a sense of privacy, but of how to convey the news, when a friend might feel they can offer so little. I mean, if the best doctors in the world can offer no cure, it can seem like a terrible burden to place the news upon a friend. Do you want to tell everyone you know, one person at a time? How long would that take? And how would your friends feel if they learned the news second, third, or fourth hand? Would they feel like they were second, third, or fourth class friends? It can be a very awkward time for newly diagnosed cancer patients. What if they say too little, too much, too late to their friends? The wrong decision may prove so embarrassing. But of course the news does come out. The news of cancer travels fast. And then the irony comes in. For the friends that learn of the cancer often do not know how to respond. What is the right thing to say to the cancer victim? To do? Does the friend with cancer share your religious beliefs? Do they want to be left alone? Do they want help? Do they want to talk? To cry? In fact, many friends of cancer victims are so afraid to do the wrong thing that they do nothing at all. Among many concerns, they fear embarrassment of doing the wrong thing. So how should the cancer news be conveyed? And what should the response be? Well, you may have known it was coming to this, but here it is. There is no single right way for either victim or friend. But embarrassment should not be the deciding factor for making the decision. And let me extend this discussion to this team. How many of you are first-time participants in team and training? Woo! Okay. Of those that raise their hands, how many of you talked to an honoree this season? Nice. Now, if you didn't raise your hand to the class question, don't be embarrassed. It's actually a pretty typical case. Talking to someone, a stranger, about their cancer seems so deeply personal. What should one say? It could be very embarrassing. But here's my message to you. The cancer survivors that have volunteered to be honorees want to talk about their cancer and to put a face to the disease, and they want to spend time in conversation with you. The honorees are very grateful for all that you do to help raise money to fight cancer. So, please cast aside your concerns about embarrassment and make an effort to talk to the honorees. And if you want to cheer on other runners, looking good is a pretty risky shot, unless you're positive the person is a teammate. Otherwise, the consequences can be so embarrassing. Go team.
This is not the end. It's not over till we let it end. It's not over as long as we stay friends. It's not over till we let it end. And this is not the end.